Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the first Telekilaas lesson of grade 7 English. I am Mufliha Jafar and I'll be taking today's lesson. But before we begin today's lesson, I'd like you to scan this code and mark your attendance. You can use the link below to mark your attendance also. So please mark your attendance first, then we will start the lesson. So today's lesson is going to be about argumentative writing. I'm sure all of us would have heard about argumentative writing. So today we are going to look at what an argumentative writing is first. We'll be looking at the structure and the language features. I'll also be providing you a sample to make it easier. Now first we'll be looking at what it is. Before that, have you ever heard of the word argument itself? I'm sure we all did, but however, in academic writing, argument, the word itself means something else. Argument is a main idea, often called a claim or thesis statement, backed up with evidence that support the idea. So it is very clear that when we make an argument, we should have enough evidence to back it up. Now, an argumentative writing presents the arguments about both sides of an issue. For example, an advantage or a disadvantage would be presented while you're writing an argumentative writing. The next thing is all the informations are presented by facts and evidence. Now, it's not evident to base an argument without any facts and evidences. So it is very important to have facts and evidences while you're writing an argumentative writing. The next thing is use clear and logical transition between introduction, body, and conclusion, which means we have to have a link between these three factors, the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. Now let's look at the structure of an argumentative writing. Here's the format. Now, as we all know, each and every essay would have main three components, that is the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. However, in this essay, the introduction mainly is based on a thesis statement. We will be looking at the thesis statements afterwards. The main body consists of two main paragraphs, which are the second paragraph is mainly about the main argument which you would be presenting, and the second one would be the counter argument. That would be your third paragraph. After the main body, we would be writing about the conclusion. Now, it is very important to remember that the conclusion is the summary of the whole essay. Now, we'll be looking at these paragraphs in depth. The first one is introduction. Now, what do you know about writing introduction of an argumentative essay? What are the features that needs to be there? Do you know any phrases that we use commonly while writing argumentative essays? Well, let's look at it. Now, it should explain the importance of the topic you should have been asked to write about. Now, for example, if you're asked to write about the advantages or the disadvantages of a mobile phone, you should first introduce the importance of mobile phones so that the reader would understand what he or she is going to be reading about, or the importance of that topic. And also, it is very important to provide some background information. Now, let's say a person that does not have any idea about what a mobile phone is would not be able to understand what your argument is based on. So, it is very important to have background information while you're writing an essay. So, always make sure to present background information about the topic. The next thing is, one of the main factors that we should always remember is we have to always start the first paragraph with time fixes and generalizations. Now, I'm sure all of you have read argumentative essays which start with nowadays, a lot of people believe this, and go on. So here are some examples that I've taken so that it would be better to understand. Now here are some time fixes examples: recently, nowadays, in this century. And other examples are nearly all, many, several. Now while you're writing the introduction, always make sure to start the introduction paragraph using these phrases. And also, one of the main things that most of the students forget to do is write their thesis statement. Always make sure that the last sentence of your introduction paragraph is your thesis statement. Now, let's look at what a thesis statement is. Have you ever heard about a thesis statement? I'm sure we would have. Now, let's look at what it is. Now, here are 3 points about a thesis statement. We'll be looking at each one in detail. The first point is, a thesis statement consciously summarizes your main points and claims. Now you'll be thinking, when we are writing a whole long essay, why would we be summarizing all of these claims at the introduction paragraph itself? Well, it is for a very important reason. It is because the reader, he or she, would be able to understand what you are talking about in the first paragraph itself, so that the reader would be able to make a judgment of what you are writing. Now, it also tells the reader how you will interpret the significance of the subject. Now, a thesis statement is important because it talks about the significance of the subject. It tells the reader why he or she should read your essay, why it is important. And also, as I've mentioned before, it is the last sentence of your introduction paragraph. So always make sure that your thesis statement is the last sentence of your introduction paragraph. Now, we are going to look at a sample introduction. Now, as we can see there, the topic is internet bad for young people. Do you think so? Is the internet bad for young people? Are there any advantages, disadvantages? What do you think? Now here is a sample introduction which we will be looking at right now. Let me read it out. Nowadays, a large number of people use internet for various purposes. It is now easier than ever to access the internet through tablets, computers, and mobile phones. There is no doubt that many young people are spending more time online with both positive and negative aspects. Now, I have highlighted some of the words and sentences and phrases here. What do you think are they? Can you identify them? Now, the first word itself, nowadays, it's underlined. What do you think that word is? Is it a time fixer? Is it a generalization? Like I've mentioned before, it is always important to start your introduction with a time fixer. So we know that this word itself is a time fixer. And then a large number of people. We are generalizing the whole thing. So it is important to use these 2 phrases, or time fixers and generalizations, while we are writing the introduction paragraph. And there is a last sentence that is highlighted in blue color. Can you identify what that is? That is the thesis statement of our introduction paragraph. As you can see, it is also the last sentence of the introduction paragraph. Now, by reading this itself, we can understand that the whole essay is going to be about positive and negative aspects of internet for young people. So we don't have to read the whole essay to understand what we are going to be writing about. Now let's look at the main body, which is the second paragraph. Now this is one very important factor which we need to keep in mind. Now since there are 2 main paragraphs in the main body, the first paragraph would be presenting one side of the argument. That would be arguments in favor. So this paragraph would be talking about the arguments in favor. For example, the advantages that you'll be talking about would be present in this paragraph. And also, you need to have a logical connection between the thesis statement in the opening paragraph. Now, we've already written a thesis statement, so it is important to have a logical connection between that thesis statement and this paragraph. And also, I'm sure most of the students already know this, but it is also very important to use views and argument phrases. Now, I've already given some examples here for you to see for a better understanding. Now, we'll be looking at some examples. One of the main arguments in favor of is that some people would argue that it is a fact that. Now, these are views and argument phrases which would be important to use while you're writing views and arguments. Now, you will be presenting an argument. So to make your argument even much stronger, you can say, one of the main arguments in favor of is that this. Then only your argument would be a lot more stronger than writing just a sentence or writing just an advantage. Also, use connectives and support phrases. Now, this is a very common mistake a lot of students make. Rather than using connectives, linking words, supporting phrases, we keep on continuously writing the sentences using and. Please stop doing that and use connectives and support phrases. Now, some examples of connectives are furthermore, moreover. Support phrases are since, as a result, consequently. So rather than continuously writing and, you can use phrases such as furthermore, moreover. That would make your essay look a lot better than using continuous sentences with and. Now, we will be looking at the sample. Can you identify these highlighted words and sentences? What do you think are they? Now, the sample says, one of the main arguments in favor of internet is that young people can do research for their schoolwork and homework with the help of the internet. This often helps the teenagers to widen their knowledge and improve their grades. Furthermore, they can practice their foreign language by chatting with their friends in other countries. This is also a great way of keeping in touch with friends around the world. Now, do you believe all these things? Are these all advantages? Now, I have highlighted quite a lot of sentences and words. Can you identify all these words? Now, we'll be looking at all these one by one. The first one is one of the main arguments in favor. What do you think is this? Is it a supporting phrase? A connective? No, it is not. It is a phrase which states your views and argument. In the previous slide even, we have shown you all these phrases. Now, there is two sentences that is highlighted in the brown color. Can you identify these sentences? I haven't talked about these sentences in the previous slides. Do you know what they are? Well, the first one is the main argument. The main argument here is that internet would help the young people to do their schoolwork and homework. Now, it is always very important to have a support to your argument. Now, you'll be supporting this by saying that it widened their knowledge and improved their grades. So now here you are providing support to your main argument, which is a very important factor. Always keep that in mind to support your arguments if you're stating one. And also, there is one more word that is highlighted in red color, furthermore. What do you think is it? Is it a linking word? Is it a connective? Additional phrase? Furthermore here is used to add new information. Now you have given one argument here, and now you're giving the other argument by adding another word. So your next argument is they can practice their foreign language. To support that, it says that it's a great way of keeping in touch with friends and family. Now we'll be looking at the third paragraph of the main body. Now, what do you think do we need to do in the third paragraph? Do we just simply leave another argument and leave it there? No. We would be presenting the arguments against. Now, we've already given arguments in favor of the topic, so here we'll be giving the arguments against. It is a very important thing to elaborate your ideas clearly so that the reader would be able to understand what your views and arguments are. Now, if you just keep on writing all the arguments in one paragraph itself, the reader would not know which argument you're supporting because you would not be giving your supporting ideas there. So it is very important to elaborate your ideas, to give support, give examples, evidence, so that the reader would be able to understand it clearly. As I said before, use views and argument phrases, but here instead of saying in favor of, you would be saying one of the main arguments against is that, or it can be argued that, it has been said that. Now you would be presenting arguments against using these phrases so that the reader would be able to understand that this is your argument for against, because you would be using phrases such as one of the main arguments against, which means that this is not your arguments in favor for. This would be the arguments against. And also, as I've mentioned before, rather than continuing your sentences using and, it is better to use connectives and support phrases. For example, in addition, similarly, for instance, and also this means that as a result. So rather than continuing the sentences using and, you can use all these phrases. Now let's look at a sample. Can you identify all these words, phrases? It says, it can be argued that some young people become addicted to online gaming, which means that they waste too much time playing online games. As a result, it can have a negative impact in their schoolwork and their health. In addition, excessive internet usage may lead to lack of communication between the families due to the excessive amount of time spent online. Do you all agree on this? Or are you against this argument? I think I agree with this argument because now here is the main argument given and there is supporting ideas, supporting statements given. Now the first word itself, it can be argued that. What do you think is that phrase? Is it an additional phrase? No. It is to present your views and argument. You're saying it can be argued that, and then you're presenting your argument with supporting ideas. And also, there are connectives and additional phrases used. So make sure while you are writing an essay to use connectives, views and argument phrases, and additional phrases. Now we will be looking at the conclusion. This would be your last paragraph of your essay. What do you think are the important things that you need to mention in the conclusion? Can you think of some? Well, let's look at the conclusion paragraph. Avoid adding new information in the conclusion. Now, this is something a lot of students tend to do. Please don't do that. Please do not add new information to the conclusion. It is important to summarize all your information in the conclusion paragraph. If you keep on adding new information to the conclusion, there would be no concluding your arguments. So you need to conclude your arguments by summarizing all of the arguments that you've stated above. And also, this is the main factor of argumentative essay. In the conclusion paragraph, you would be putting forward your personal view and opinion. Now, we have two sides about internet. One is that it's good for young people, the other is it's bad for young people. Now here you will be stating whether it is good for young people or not, your personal opinion. So how do you think you would be writing this concluding paragraph? Would you simply say internet is good for young people or internet is bad for young people? Would you be using any phrases to state your opinion? Well, let's look at it. Also, it is important to use conclusion, opinion, and suggestion phrases. Now, there are a lot of phrases that can be used in the conclusion paragraph to make it better. For example, while you're concluding your paragraph, use statements such as to sum up, in conclusion. While you're stating your opinion, you can say that, in my opinion, I believe that, or I am against, or I am strongly opposed. These are phrases you can use to state your opinion. And also, you can use suggestion phrases such as, it would be a good idea if, and you can give your suggestion. Now, let's look at the sample conclusion. Can you identify all these phrases? There are quite a lot of phrases here. Can you identify them? Well, let's look at it. To sum up, spending time on the internet can have negative effects on the youth. However, in my opinion, I believe that the convenience and the ease of access to information outweighs the unfavorable effects. Now here, the writer have mentioned his or her opinion here. Now you can clearly identify where the opinion stands, because it says that it outweighs the negative effects. So the writer is favoring the arguments in favor of. He or she believes that internet is good for young people. Now let's look at some phrases here. To sum up, what do you think it is? Is it a concluding phrase? Yes, it is. And also we are given, in my opinion, I believe that. That is to state your opinion. It is better to use phrases such as that to state your opinion, so that the reader would be able to understand that you are stating your opinion with supporting factors. Thank you. Now, before I conclude this, it is important to mark your attendance. So please scan this code, or you can use the link below to mark your attendance. Thank you.